Hey everybody, this is Perch. If you were around in early 2000, DC made waves by moving away from Diamond and announcing that they'd be putting their comics out on Tuesdays. This prompted a lot of, let's say, emotional reactions from comic news sites. Bleeding Cool ran a number of op-ed pieces calling DC sociopaths for moving the comics, talking about how this was destructive and Wednesday was always the day and how dare they move them. And it was just universally decried as a horrifying sin. Marvel basically printed a bunch of Wednesday Warrior type variant covers because that is just so Marvel. By the way, when you go into the archives searching for some of these articles back in that time period, you'll notice that Bleeding Cool and The Beat both have scrubbed all their articles, and it's weird because you'll see wording around, DC's disastrous move to Tuesdays in the little preview and if you're looking at it in Google, but then when you click on the article, those paragraphs are gone, and a lot of those articles are gone completely. Bleeding Cool loves to cross-reference all over the place constantly, linking to their own articles, and a lot of those links now go to 404 errors, which is weird. But if you go and look at Internet Archive, you can still see them. So it's why do this? Who knows? Who knows why this has been done? But anyway, this year DC announced that hey, we're going to actually go ahead and go back to Wednesdays, and February 22nd, 2024, we get this article saying comic shop owners applaud DC Comics return to Wednesday on sale date. And here we get a somewhat schmarmy article from Rich Johnson talking about, hey, as a result of the pandemic distributor shutdowns, DC Comics dropped Diamond for Lunar and moved their on-sale date to Tuesdays to match bookstore distribution dates. And many retailers started getting those comic books the previous week. But everyone else stuck to the Wednesday date, even the likes of Image Comics. I don't know what that has to do with anything. Who are also now being distributed exclusively by Lunar. That still doesn't have anything to do with anything, but okay. But anyway, they basically said, hey, everybody's super excited and thrilled. The announcement got a standing ovation from the assembled retailers at Comics Pro Retailer Summit in Pittsburgh. So, what happened there? Well, in 2000, DC decided to experiment, saying, hey, let's put our comics out on Tuesdays, a different date from Wednesdays. We're going to light it with other releases. And in DC, and I talked to several people who were with the company at that point, they had an idea in their minds that if they came out a day early than Marvel, there might just be a possibility that people would come in early, spend more of their money on DC, and have less money the next day for Marvel. It's part of the idea. Now, it was a good idea. I'm not sure that ever panned out. But anyway, they were trying to shake up the industry, do something different. The legacy comics media went nuts about it, calling them every name under the book. And then we had retailers, in particular the big ones, which was always a little suspicious because the big ones had stable business, and it was the little guys who were really struggling. So the big ones like Mile High Comics went over the top about how DC was the worst ever and threatened, we won't carry DC anymore. And of course, they kept carrying DC because that was a bunch of bullshit. But anyway, so 2020, we got, hey, we're moving to Tuesday. 2024, DC announces, hey, in the summer, we're going to go back to Wednesdays. And a standing ovation, supposedly, from retailers at Comic Pro. So how's that working out for them? Well, Dateline August 18th. No new comics on Tuesdays is hurting our sales. I like the little subhead says, in July, DC Comics started moving their new comics on sale dates from Tuesdays to Wednesdays. A foolish thing to do by Rod Lamberti. Now, in fairness, Rod never went hard at DC for moving this in the first place. It was definitely Rich and others. But listen to this article right here. Which just indicates the comic industry continues to be plagued with people with no business sense. But Rod has just a little point here to share. He says, in July, DC started moving their new comics on sale dates from Tuesdays to Wednesdays. It was a foolish thing to do for me as a comic book retailer. But why? If they got a standing ovation, why could this be? And DC sales dropped because of it. Sales dropped because people were no longer coming in on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. What is one of the many things a comic store should do? Get people to come into their store. The more people that come in, the more chances of them spending money. When I go to Target because I need soap and then I come back the next day because I need toothpaste, people at Target don't question why I've come back. They're a big business. Target wants people to come in as many times as possible. The second time I went, I saw something else and I decided to buy it, along with the item I went to Target for. Or I might buy more than one item, like a bunch of Magic the Gathering packs. That's more sales for Target. Multiply that by thousands of people who do that at Target, and that adds up. I had people coming in upset that DC was no longer being sold on Tuesdays. I told people this for a month, though many were still in the habit of coming in on Tuesdays for new comics. I had one person, who I see once in a blue moon, pick up previously released comics and ask where the new DC titles were, and I told him I can no longer sell DC on Tuesdays. He put the titles he could have bought back on the shelf. I told him those I could sell to him with no problem because they were just previous releases. Instead, he just left. I could go on here, and I'm not laughing at poor Rod here, who's making a solid point. But let me break it down to you this way. Generally, he's right. You want people to come into your store every day, if you could, because people do have the habit of buying more than they came in for. And that's very true in comic shops. Years of being a retailer, people would come in for a single comic and almost always leave with one or two more comics or trading cards or back issues or t-shirts or any number of things, because there's something psychological about just feeling foolish walking up the register with two comics. Many people want to pile more things on. They start justifying it to their mind. I mean, I drove all the way in here. I might as well. And even though it was a little silly at the time for DC to think that coming out a day earlier might help them gain an advantage over Marvel, it wasn't the dumbest idea in the world. Again, I don't think it panned out entirely, but there was some logic to it. At least the company was trying to do something different. This article reads painful because it's a case of a company who said, hey, you know what might be a good idea? Let's put the comics out another day besides Wednesday. We might have an advantage to our competition, but even if we don't, we'll get people coming into the comic store 2 days out of the week instead of one, just Wednesday, and I'll bet the comic stores will be thankful for that. Instead, the comic stores and the retailers, especially the big loudmouth ones, threw a tantrum because the world changed. Not because it was better or worse, but because it was just something different. We heard big comic store retailers, ones that don't put shit on the shelves themselves anyway, they hire people to do that, complaining that comics coming out on Tuesday and comics coming out on Wednesday just increase the amount of books that I have to put on the shelf. I mean, that makes no sense. It's the same number of books that come out of the shelf. You just put some out one day and some out the other day, and hey, jackass, you're not putting the books out yourself anyway. You've got people who are doing that. So what are you worried about? But anyway, they bitched and bitched and bitched. And finally, 4 years later, DC submits, goes back to Wednesday. And what happens? Sales drop. It's not just, it's not just Rod who said this. You can go on Twitter. You can go on Facebook groups. A ton of retailers are saying this. Sales are down. They're down because people who were previously coming in 2 days a week are now going just one, and they're buying less overall. This is dumb. This was a dumb move. It was a move that DC made under pressure for a bunch of people who do not have the industry's best interests at heart. They continuously strive and struggle to just keep everything the same because that's what they're comfortable with. They're comfortable with being mediocre. So anyway, the article is just painful to read, but I wanted to catch back up on it. It said, I know my wanting to be able to sell comics on Tuesday is a long shot, but who knows? Maybe someone will read this, see the logic in it. Yeah, I do. I think most people with any business sense will. Unfortunately, Rod, the majority of people in comics do not have business sense. If not DC, maybe another publisher. Basically, I like to make more money. Does DC? Many stores want all new comics to be on just one new release day, Wednesday. But I like to do things differently and bet against other comic book stores. The Magic set Ikora was the first set released after the shutdown. One of my vendors for Magic called and asked if I wanted to cut down my orders, saying all the other stores did. I said no, I will gamble on the collector mentality. They have not been able to buy cards for so long, they will want them even more. That was my thinking. If COVID-19 did any lingering or long-term damage to sales, every store would be in trouble. It was a winning bet. Other stores ran out of Ikora. Well, we had stock of them. It ended up being one of the best-selling Magic sets in our nearly 14-year history. It's I mean, this is a continual lesson. The comic industry routinely listens to people who, like I say, do not have their best interest in heart. What they have, the interest they have is to just not change. And not changing is how we got into this mess. Anyway, funny how the world turns. It is a miracle, I think, some of the time this business has survived at all. Thanks for listening.
Love me like this, love me like that, love me like this, love me like